Hey YouTube. Hey T Sippers. Hey, 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 hey. Hey T Sippers. Come on in. Come on in.
The real enemy of the finance system was Bill Clinton. And if you ask me what and who caused the financial crisis, I would tell you it was Bill Clinton. Because of,
You gonna
no,
say
it's too
it's
risky.
anybody other than yourself and Trump, who you need to be calling out. Hey y'all, come on in.
So this is my first day starting
I would
the
not call you.
printable Tai Chi walking program.
What?
And this is me now.
We here at Live Now prioritize live coverage. Right now we are
Trump done lost it.
and the First Lady are
Hey
in
Cynthia.
attendance at this event at the White House. Governors from across the country attending as well. Wanted to make sure that we showed this live. We don't know if the president will step up and make remarks right this second. It's like he might be heading for that podium. Let's listen. This is live.
Baby, he wanna be so important. His feelings is so hurt. Him feelings is hurt.
And the First Lady are in attendance at this event at the White House. Governors from across the country attending as well. Wanted to make sure that we showed this live. We don't know if the president will step up and make remarks right this second.
He said, I will not call you fake news. I will not call you fake news. He don't have his makeup on. He didn't wipe his face with blood or whatever he be doing to get that orange.
I should be president. So despite that, it's a very friendly group. And it really is many, many friends and very competent people. Over the past year, we've already achieved a historic turnaround for our country. With unprecedented speed, we solved intractable problems. We really have done something. It's been an incredible first year for all of us. We've transformed stagnation into growth, weakness into strength, and chaos into order, liberty, and justice. We have done that.
Yeah,
Today,
right.
the border is secure. Murders are at a 125-year low. Think of that.
They believe anything that this reptilian.
Inflation is the lowest in 5 years and going down. Prices are going down really rapidly. We inherited a mess, and we brought them down a lot, and we're going to go still further. And our military is more powerful than ever before, and we're just respected all over the world. Like I would say, we have maybe never been, but certainly not for many decades. Working with your states wherever we can achieve.
So he
much
just says
more.
the opposite of everything.
Great leaders. You're just about all very popular. I know every one of you, and you've all had a pretty easy time becoming governor. That's because you've done really good work. From Thomas Jefferson to today, America's governors have been among the smartest, most creative, most talented Americans our country has ever produced. So many
All of them except the black guy.
positions. I will not say the Senate, but we can say that, and they want to be governor. Would you explain that to me, Mr. Governor? And we're going to save the Great Salt Lake. You know that, right? He's got a problem. He came in to see me today. These are the kind of things. He said, sir, we have to save the Great Salt Lake. I said, explain this to me, please. And in that city called Salt Lake City, somebody said, where is it located? I said, it's located in Salt Lake City, right? So he said, we're losing water rapidly, and it's getting smaller, drier. And you tell those people we're going to work on it really hard. We're going to save it. We're not going to let that go. That is what I call a real environmental problem, not using hairspray and I'm going to ruin the ozone, okay? I'm in my apartment in Trump Tower. The building is totally sealed off. And if I use hairspray, they say, sir, you're creating an environmental hazard. That's not the kind of thing we want to talk about. But saving the Great Salt Lake, that's what we're going to be doing, okay? So this was a good trip for you, Governor. And I'll tell you what, because I heard you're the most popular guy there. Now, we put out a statement, and you're in pretty good shape. But there's no coincidence that 17 governors have gone on to become the President of the United States. I'm not surprised by that at all. Whether it's reforming education, defending public safety, bringing back manufacturing from overseas, or responding to natural disasters, like I think they could call that a natural disaster, I view each of you as essential partners in our mission to make America great again, and just in time for America 250. This is a big deal. I invite everyone in this room to bring forward ideas and opportunities to better serve our people, and in turn, never hesitate to let us know if there's anything we can do for you. This administration is open and available. I met with Governor Abbott today, and you had a couple of requests, unfortunately. He always has very expensive, it's Texas. And he did tell me I got the greatest vote in the history of Texas by far. That's an honor. But it's Texas. It's always big dollars, but I always approve them for Texas, right? So we've taken care of business. I hope everyone here tonight will be back in Washington this summer as we celebrate the glory of the unique heritage of your individual states with a Great American State Fair. And you know all about it. Our National Mall is going to be transformed into something that's actually
Y'all please hit the like button coming in while we listen to him.
Maryland and Virginia left us. We're going to be cleaning it up. It's unbelievable what they can do with incompetence. Together, we're going to make our 250th year the greatest in the history of our country. And we have a couple of other events coming up also very shortly thereafter. We have the World Cup, and we have the Summer Olympics, and the World Cup has gone out with their tickets, and more than double.
They need to
sold
bark
more
out.
than double what they've ever sold before, way early. And it's unbelievable. The numbers they've done, Susie, are unbelievable. They just came back, and it's really special. It's going to be something that I think that there will be nothing like this period of time. You know, when the election was rigged and I missed my normal second term, I said, this is terrible. But I was the one that got the Olympics, and I was the one that got the World Cup. The problem was I was going to be president for another 4 years, and this was going to take place. Mr. Governor, you're doing a good job in Louisiana. We did a good job in that very special city of yours, too, with crime, didn't we? Huh? He said you cleaned it out. New Orleans, we cleaned it out. You never had, and your Mardi Gras was a big success, right? But we have so many different things that we can be so proud of, and what's going to happen and what has happened when this horrible event took place with the election of 2020. And I said, this is terrible. And then I said, you know what, I got to do it again because we did so well in that second election. I said, I got to do it again. And I did it again, and then all of a sudden they're saying, sir, the Olympics are coming up. Sir, the World Cup's coming up. Sir, 250 years is coming up. Now, I took credit for the Olympics. I took credit for the World Cup. And I'm trying to take credit for the 250 years, but I'm not getting away with it. I'm getting hammered. I tried to take credit for 3, but I'll take credit for 2 of the 3. But we're going to have an incredible few years. I mean, we're going to have something special. And, you know, factories are being built all over the country at numbers. I don't know if you saw, but they did job reports just came out, and the numbers of construction jobs is at a record. Well, those jobs are at a record because they're building plants and factories all over the country. The Dow hit 50,000. When I got elected, they said it would be great if he could hit 50,000 and by his 4th year, by the end of his 4th year. And I hit it by the end of my 1st year. And then we hit 7,000 on the S&P, and 7,000 was even more difficult. They said it's probably impossible in 4 years, but 5 or 6 years out, well, we did it in 1 year, and you're all the beneficiaries of it. So I just want to thank you. I want to congratulate you for all of the incredible work you've done. Now, we're with some very special reporters tonight. I often say the fake news, but I will not say that tonight, even though I'm on live television. I will not call you fake news, okay? As the cameras are roaring and I say, that guy always gets. But we have tonight incredible entertainment. As good as you'll ever see anywhere in the world. We have the greatest violinist in the world. And we had an event here about 2 months ago, and she played with Andrea Bocelli right in this room. And she blew the roof off, as they say. She was unbelievable. And when I thought of the governor's dinner, I said, we have to invite her back. So we invited her back. She's here tonight. And of course, we have these genius military musicians who are as good as any musicians in the world. So I said to myself, the press has been relatively fair to me over the last year, meaning they've been bad but not horrible. And I said, if you'd like, should we by vote allow the press to watch the great finale that we have planned tonight with the musicians? If you'd like to do it, you can do it. And look at them, they're all dressed up and all looking beautiful. So if you'd like, should we vote, governors? Who's in favor of letting the media watch the great finale tonight of the greatest musicians in the world? I'm in favor. Anybody in favor? Okay. Well, you win by a slight, but it's not exactly unanimous, but that's all right. We understand they are politicians after all. So if you'd like to come back a little bit later, we'd love to have you. You'll see some unbelievable entertainment. So governors and spouses and everybody that's here, and my cabinet members, my great cabinet members, so many are here. I just want to thank you for doing a fantastic job. Our country is back on track. We had a horrible, horrible dead country. 1.5 years ago, we were dead. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world, as said by many leaders of the world. And speaking of leaders, we have a great leader, a great military leader named Pete Hegseth, and he is going to say grace. He's
At the office.
who turned out to be absolutely fantastic at what he does, and you know what he does. And he's turned out to be an incredible inspiration to the men and women in our military. Again, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we couldn't get anybody to go into the military. We couldn't get them for the police, for the military, for anything, for firefighters, anything with a uniform on, Governor, right? And now we're setting records in even police departments, fire departments, but the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Space Force, Coast Guard.
Thank you, Mrs. Tom.
We have waiting lists to get in. In fact, if you'd like to make those great services larger, this is an awfully good time to do it. Let's make them larger if you want. But we've never had anything like it. We went from a year and a half ago, nobody wanted to join. We could not even come close to our recruitment numbers. And now we're setting records. We have never had anything like it. And all it is spirit and love for our country. It's very simple. So you have done a fantastic job. And Pete, you are doing incredible. And please say grace. Thank you.
I haven't been to the grocery store in
Oh
months
my
because this delivery
God.
service offers hundreds of high-quality, non-GMO
Ooh.
groceries and recipes that help.
Say grace. Thank you.
If you would, bow your head. Dear Heavenly Father, King Jesus, we come humbly before your throne, praising you for all the providence you've bestowed upon this nation. For over 250 years, from George Washington to President Trump, we have dedicated this nation to one nation under God, and certainly in God we trust. And as we think 250 years ago to George Washington on bended knee in Valley Forge, appealing to heaven on behalf of his troops in this young nation, we've appealed to you from the beginning, and may we continue to appeal to you. And tonight, we pray for our president, President Trump. Give him safety, give him wisdom. Lord, we pray for our vice president, our first lady, our second lady, the cabinet members here, all the governors assembled here as well, our civil magistrates, Lord God. I ask that you give them the wisdom to see what is right and the courage to do it. Wisdom defined as the fear of the Lord being the source of all knowledge and wisdom. Lord God, your eternal truths, may they rule. So this evening, also, I would be remiss if I did not pray for our great troops, our men and women all around the globe, defending our great nation as they have for 250 years. Lord God, watch over them and protected. It is in your holy name, the Lord Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords.
Jesus
that we pray.
Christ, you
We
better
bless this
say
day
it.
too. Amen.
Amen. Jesus.
Thank you very much. I'd like to
You
just
see how
ask
far away he
JD
got?
Vance, he's doing a fantastic
He got
job.
way over there.
Come up and say a few words, please. Thank you, JD.
He got away from that Jesus Christ.
Well, I didn't expect that, sir, so I don't have anything prepared, but I will say that, like Marco Rubio,
You ain't never
and a few
prepared.
others, I serve in the United States Senate, and
A
Mr.
bunch
President, what I
of
admire so
men.
much about you and the governors is that you guys actually have to make decisions. You have to live by those decisions, and you have to
And a
suffer
little
the
poop came
consequences
out. Look how
or
far
enjoy
away.
the rewards of those decisions. The good thing about being a United States Senator, like the good thing about being Vice President, is that nobody blames you when anything goes wrong. So, to the governors here, we admire your courage, we admire your leadership, and to the President of the United States, we admire you for all the great things you're doing for our country. Thank you, sir.
Which is nothing.
So, and just in closing, I wanted to, you've read a lot. We're building a ballroom for 150 years. They've wanted a great ballroom.
I thought they got knocked down.
A room, because this is a very small room, can hold very small numbers of people. And they've wanted a great ballroom, and we're going to build the greatest ballroom anywhere.
That number's okay.
And you're looking right here at the entrance. This is a knockout panel, exactly where the gold curtains are.
Yeah.
And when
Ain't
that
nobody
gets-
asked you for that.
There's a magnificent
What
walkway
about those
that
girls?
goes into what will be
and
the most
boys?
beautiful ballroom anywhere in the world. So we did this.
We
no
want
charge
release
to
the
taxpayer
Epstein files.
whatsoever. This was all donations made by friends of mine and people that love our country. They love the White House, Preservation Society, the whole group, but not one penny of, and it's a very expensive building, very expensive ballroom, but beautiful, beautiful in keeping with the White House, an enhancement to the White House, but they've needed it for years. When they had a big event, when the president of China comes in, when somebody comes in of magnitude, they put a tent out on the lawn. If it rained, you were in deep trouble, because the only part of the lawn that they can do it is a very low section.
Quit trying to justify this ballroom.
When
Where's the remaining of the Epstein files?
he's sitting in a puddle with 4 inches of water over his shoes. It was not exactly good, but it's under construction. But right through, that's going to be a very famous.
We want the remaining of the Epstein
hundreds of
files.
years, because what we're building is really special, but so important to say, because nobody ever reports it.
Hey, gas
it
pack.
will be totally tax-free. Not one penny of tax will be donated to this, and
It won't
it's gonna be
cost you
something
nothing
that
to
I think
release
country
the
will
remaining of the
want to
Epstein
know,
files.
But for hundreds, hopefully hundreds and hundreds of years. So thank you all very much, and this is a great honor, and we'll talk later. And media, we'll see you in a little while, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Get your ass on. Okay,
One of the great challenges
so
is knowing enough about a subject to think you're
yeah, he didn't invite the black governor cause he's spiteful and him mad, and it's Black History Month, and he trying to do away with Black history, the evilness of slavery. He says bad. So y'all, you know, slavery was bad. He say he want to remove the history because he don't want nobody to know. He want it removed from the history books. Ain't that some shit? But you loading up undocumented immigrants and treating them like they are slaves. Yeah, no. We want the remaining of the Epstein files. Now, I'm surprised that, when was this? A couple of hours ago, because he been having meltdowns and temper tantrums. I wonder how do the people who really voted for him, how they feel knowing that they have voted somebody in that if they don't get their way, they will have a tantrum. Oh, what about? Oh, he want to buy Rudy's? Oh, wow. Rick Ross want to buy Rudy's. I wonder why is Rudy's going out of business for real. Them Spain brothers. Well, Walter, he passed away. He was the one working over there. And Chris, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, former prince to disclose Trump's connection. Who is this coming? Yeah, so listen, let's go ahead and chime on. In Israel have biblical rights. Cheney, they don't have biblical rights because 1948. Give us a DNA. Sir, if you say, because Tucker went over there and sized your ass up. If you say and you think that Israel, the state of Israel, have biblical rights, then we need a DNA. I'm going to nip that right on in the bud. Give us a DNA. Oh, yeah, y'all, that's against y'all rules. Well, it's against the biblical rules if you can't prove that you are a believer in Jesus Christ. Because that is what inherits you. That's your biblical rights. You have to be a believer in Jesus Christ. And you have to denounce the devil and your devilish ways. Now, I need for somebody to man up, woman up, church up, and let him know that that's the requirements. It's your acceptance in Christ. Yeah. It's not a birthright. It's a relationship with Christ right. It's an acceptance of Christ right. And I'm surprised you preacher, reverend doctors and deacons and duds and whatever y'all are, ushers on the usher board, deaconettes and evangelists. Y'all need to tell these people the truth. And y'all need to let them know that they are not the... Oh, baby, it just... When I tell you all of that... Baby, they kicked me out my own shit. Huh? I guess they didn't like that, huh? Kicked me all the way out of my own shit. But guess what? The truth was still the truth. All I have to do is hit a restart and it comes back on. The truth is still the truth. And it's going to set you free. And if you want to have some birthrights, some spiritual birthrights, yeah, then you need to accept him as your personal savior. The truth don't change. You understand? Yeah. So them the only biblical rights you have is, and that's to accept him as your personal savior. Then you're entitled to the inheritance. And let's be clear. Israel is a person, and there's no such thing as a state. You stole the land. We're talking about spiritual inheritance. And that comes by way of Jesus Christ and your acceptance of him. And you should know that. But you are a deceiver, Mike Huckabee. Yeah. Let me fix this tab, baby, because it keep me right smooth on out, didn't it? Now, let's go talk about that, the Boo-Boo Meister. The Boo-Boo Meister. I bet you when he take that suit off, it's going to stand up on its own. But hold on, let me get to it. Since it threw me out, girl, they thought they had you like you weren't gonna be able to come back with it. And you ought to be ashamed of yourself lying and being deceitful. Trying to act like you are of Christ and knowing good and dang well you are a deceiver. You are a wolf in sheep clothing. You are one of the devil's minions. And I would suggest to you, sir, that you make some spiritual changes, and you call out to God and ask Him to forgive you of your shortcomings, of your sins, and beg Him please to accept you. I hope you ain't. All I'm gonna say is I hope you ain't blasphemed against the Holy Spirit. See, I'm going to be nice. And I'm going to say, I hope you haven't. Yeah. Because I have to. Hold on, y'all. Let me get on over here. Let me get over here. Baby, over here where oh, you missed it last night, y'all. We had a... Did y'all watch my live last night? We had that Ghislaine Maxwell sighting. They don't move the out there out, y'all. She ain't in there. You know, I think they Christ for real. Like they gonna rise on the third day and they gonna go to the tomb and Christ ain't gonna, and they ain't gonna be there. Is that what they call that stuff doing? I play too much. Hold on. I got some. Ooh. Somebody loaded this. Hold on. Which one was this one?
A message telling me that they gave you that to relax your muscle. So they would actually stick their fingers in your
and shout out to the men.
Then they would try to pull it.
Shout out to the men that's giving their testimony, you know, telling their truths, standing in their violation. God, you know, my heart goes out to every victim. Male, female, boy, girl, child. You know, but I do know that it is extreme. DNA testing Israel will topple the entire social experiment. Sure would. I know it's hard for anybody to tell their truth. And it blows my mind when people say, well, why did it take them so long? Who are you? Who are you to ask somebody why do it take so long for them to discuss their trauma? Who are you? See, it's stuff like that that'll make me look totally different. When I say make me look totally different, you know, there's an ugly side to me. Baby, to thy own self be true. There is a ugly side to me. And yeah, stuff like that will make me get real ugly. Who do you think you are? How dare you? How dare you? How dare I'm even thinking about it. It hurts my heart and it hurts my feelings to know, to even imagine what these victims, all of them, especially the kids, especially the kids. We can't handle betrayal as an adult. And to know that these kids didn't have anybody or felt like they couldn't tell anybody. And these grown people who should have been there to protect them, took advantage of them. Let's hear this little boy. Well, he was a little boy when it happened. Hold on.
Sent me a message telling me that they gave you that to relax. Recently sent me a message telling me that they gave you that to relax your muscle. So they would actually stick their fingers in your rectum, and then they would try to pull it out, and they would walk around with Polaroid cameras and take pictures of actually they called it a rose. They would take pictures of it, and then there were binders of roses, and then they would show each other, and they were actually getting off on looking at the roses of underage boys. Recently sent me a message telling me that they gave you that to relax your muscle. So they would actually stick their fingers in your rectum, and then they would try to pull it out, and they would walk around with Polaroid cameras and take pictures of actually they called it a rose. They would take pictures of it, and then there were binders of roses, and then they would show each other, and they were actually getting off on looking at the roses of underage boys.
And down here it says, girl, her Trump billionaire friend and founder of Victoria's Secret alleged victim, George, have detailed more abuse that took place while he was being trafficked. Should the whole country be started over? Let us know. Yeah. Earlier I was talking about the live before this one, why Trump wants to do away with Black history. And the gist of what I was saying is about there is a reserve that's been hidden, buried, been hidden and whitewashed. We've been lied to, just like a lot of this stuff. And his primary reason, in my opinion, is because Newsom put together a committee to do the research on the descendants of slavery and if slavery really happened, and for reparations. And so the video before this one, the live before this one, was the gist of it, because it has to be about money for him wanting to remove it, not being able to research it. Because see, that reserve that's way down the hall in a storage room that's pitch black and dusty, somewhere in that somewhere in there, it may have been worded a little different and looked over, but there is a reserve for descendants of slaves that they don't want to be found, in my opinion. And I'm saying all this now to say there should be a reserve out of Trump, Wexner, Epstein, Ghislaine, all of these elites should be fined millions and millions of dollars. And these victims should have a fund, a respiration, in my opinion. In my opinion. So let me get to this other one. I had another one before we get over to the judge and what's been going on in these streets. The reason Trump has never sued. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Somebody hear this cat right here. Let's hear this. He know him personally.
Deal about Trump that people didn't know. He was an open drug addict. Everyone knew it. None of this stuff was a secret. You know, that he was doing coke on shows 20 years ago when we do, you know,
when we
I used to do the beauty pageants with him in the 90s. You know, he was an open drug user, open sexual assaulter, and this stuff was just kind of accepted.
And it's not you heard this firsthand. It's you saw this with your own eyes.
Absolutely. I told him the real deal about Trump that people didn't know. He was an open drug addict. Everyone knew it. None of this stuff was a secret. You know, that he was doing coke on shows 20 years ago when we do, you know, the VH1 Fashion Awards, and I used to do the beauty pageants with him in the 90s.
Hey,
you know, he was an open drug user, open sexual assaulter, and this stuff was just kind of accepted.
And it's not you heard this firsthand. It's you saw this with your own eyes.
Absolutely. That's when most of the drug use occurred on The Apprentice, when he had to read cue cards. He'd get really nervous, so he'd go in the bathroom, crush up Adderall. He'd come back to set. There'd be white chunks flying out of his nose, white powder under his nose. He's doing the same thing as a candidate and as a president. You know, it gives him a feeling of being in control. But he's clearly an addict. If you know anything about addiction, untreated addiction as a president is the worst thing you could have. So, yeah, he was obviously high that night. It was that was the same person we saw in The Apprentice. And I remember watching that and like, yep, he's high. And it was probably, you know, probably wasn't just Adderall. You know, he did coke, he did meth, he had drug dealers coming to the after parties selling it to him. Adderall is his maintenance high. It's what he does during the day. When he gets down to Mar-a-Lago and these other places, he gets into it a little harder. He also uses benzodiazepine, you know, Valium and stuff to come down when he hits it hard. So when you see him slurring and stuff, that's from the benzos. And, you know, the things I saw, he didn't even hide. So many other people saw this stuff. But imagine what the people are seeing right now in the White House. You know what I mean? Yeah. We got him for an hour a day on The Apprentice, because Celebrity Apprentice, because he barely works. That's the other thing. The guy is unmanageable. You know what I mean? He's not a functioning human being. He barely works. 9 times out of 10, we'd have to cancel that day's taping because he wouldn't show up at the last minute. So imagine the dysfunction and the insanity these people are witnessing at the White House. The GOP leaders that, as you said, are enabling him.
Wow. Thank you, Andrea.
I told him the real deal about Trump that people didn't know. He was an open drug addict. Everyone knew it. None of this stuff was a secret. You know, that he was doing coke on shows 20 years ago when we do, you know, the VH1 Fashion Awards, and I used to do the beauty pageants with him in the 90s. You know, he was an open drug user, open sexual assaulter, and this stuff was just kind of accepted.
And it's not you heard this firsthand. It's you saw this with your own eyes.
Absolutely. That's when most of the drug use occurred on The Apprentice, when he had to read cue cards. He'd get really nervous, so he'd go in the bathroom, crush up Adderall. He'd come back to set. There'd be white chunks flying out of his nose, white powder under his nose. He's doing the same thing as a candidate and as a president. You know, it gives him a feeling of being in control. But he's clearly an addict. If you know anything about addiction, untreated addiction as a president is the worst thing you could have. So, yeah, he was obviously high that night.
So this is a high look. Oh, it ain't showing. This is a high look. So get off of it, girl.
The same person we saw in The Apprentice. And I remember watching that and like, yep, he's high. And it was probably, you know, probably wasn't just Adderall. You know, he did flying out of his nose, white powder under his nose. He's doing the same thing as a candidate and as a president. You know, it gives him a feeling of being in control. But he's clearly an addict. If you know anything about addiction, untreated addiction as a president is the worst thing you could have. So, yeah, he was obviously high that night. It was that was the same person we saw in The Apprentice. And I remember watching that and like, yep, he's high. And it was probably, probably wasn't just Adderall. You know, he did coke, he did meth, he had drug dealers coming to the after parties selling it to him. Adderall is his maintenance high. It's what he does during the day. When he gets down to Mar-a-Lago and these other places, he gets into it a little harder. He also uses benzodiazepine, Valium and stuff to come down when he hits it hard. So when you see him slurring and stuff, that's from the benzos. And, the things I saw, he didn't even hide. So many other people saw this stuff. But imagine what the people are seeing right now in the White House. You know what I mean? Yeah. We got him for an hour
Crazy
a day
time.
because he Celebrity Apprentice, because he barely works. That's the other thing. The guy is unmanageable. You know what I mean? He's not a functioning human being. He barely works. 9 times out of 10, we'd have to cancel that day's taping because he wouldn't show
barely
up at the
works.
last minute. So
he don't know what the hell he doing.
The dysfunction and the insanity these people are witnessing at the White House. The GOP leaders that, as you said, are enabling him.
So they said, so it's on here saying Donald Trump has not filed a lawsuit against Noor Kessler for his statements about drug use or other allegations. So that means it's probably true. Yes, ma'am. How about yourself? Oh, y'all. Okay, I'm sorry. I was reading. Hey, everybody who came in since I've been all on here. So for the ones of y'all who missed it last night, there was an absolute Ghislaine Maxwell sighting. She is not in prison. She is not in prison. Somebody else is in there doing her time for her. Yay, I'm glad you're feeling better. Yeah, I was up way after midnight. Y'all know I'm normally out by midnight. I was in there matching eyes. This is somebody else that got it today. But boo, we was on it yesterday. Huh? And she said that I'll let her say it. But she's saying that she in Canada and they done figured out who was with her. Anybody want to guess who was with her that was here last night? Baby, we done went through eyes. Hold on. We went through the eyes. I had to, I pulled up this picture. I looked at that picture too, I think. Oh, no, that's not the one I looked. I did this one. That's her. And I did this one. I think I did another one. This one with her and Melania. Oh, you can't see it. Yep. She not in there, y'all. They done moved her. And her brother said, you fell asleep. Yeah. Her brother felt entitled, and he said that she was getting threats. It was really, really bad in prison. Her life was in danger. Yeah, she fooled with kids. That's what happens. Y'all didn't know that? Before y'all started fooling with kids? And why is she outside of a pizza parlor? Huh? With a Pokemon behind her. Are you still luring kids? Yeah.
Maxwell?
Ghislaine? Do I know you? You know Ghislaine?
No, sorry.
No, I used to order hella pizza off of her.
Same accent.
Delivered, yeah.
This video has been going viral online, and although Grok says that this video has been heavily edited, it says that the base video looks to be real from Quebec City, Canada. Obviously, this looks a lot more like Ghislaine than this. People are
Absolutely.
also wondering who's the guy she's talking to, and there's a lot of people that think it looks a whole
It
lot
do look like him.
Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's lawyer. But what about the cane? I couldn't find any photos of Alan walking with a cane, but it turns out that in June of 2015, Alan Dershowitz reported that he was walking with a cane due to injuries sustained from falling on a puddle at TD Gardens in 2012. What are the odds? The internet's wild and who knows what's real, but when he says Ghislaine and she does that double take, ooh,
Yep.
that does seem suspicious.
Because she was
Do you
waiting
think this
there
is
for
a lookalike
somebody.
or the real deal?
They were
Because
out there
if this video
probably
is real,
waiting
the
for
teeth look the
a
same,
kid.
and so do the eyes and nose.
Oh, the
As always,
eyes is
let
a
me know
dead
what
giveaway.
you think about all of this down below. Wait, is this Ghislaine Maxwell?
Is. Y'all see the Pokemon behind there?
You want a Keelan?
No, sorry.
No, I used to
They
order
finna snatch a kid
always delivered,
at a
yeah.
pizza
This
parlor.
video has been going viral online, and although Grok says that this video has been heavily edited, it says that the base video looks to be real from Quebec City, Canada. Obviously, this looks a lot more like Ghislaine than this. People are also wondering who's
See, you
the guy
can't get
she's
her
talking
eyes,
to.
even that
And there's
other-
a lot of people that think
It
it
do
looks
look
a
like
whole
him.
lot like Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's lawyer. But what about the cane? I couldn't find any photos of Alan walking with a cane, but it turns out that in June of 2015, Alan Dershowitz reported that he was walking with a cane due to injuries sustained from falling on a puddle at TD Gardens in 2012. What are the odds? The internet's wild and who knows what's real, but when he says Ghislaine and she does that
She damn sure did a double take. And them eyes, the big eye in the what is that called? A almond shape. She got two different type of eye structures going on. But this is what I came over here for right here. Auntie Fee, you play too much. This right here. I came over here for this. Cow. Mommy Dearest right here is finna get on her, have a little talk with her son. Hold on, I'm trying to get it. Come on. It's getting stuck, y'all. Hold on.
My dear Andrew, I told you that gentleman was not suitable company, and now look at the predicament you've wandered into. One must choose friends with discretion, not excitement. A crown is heavy enough without foolish companions. My dear Andrew, I told you that gentleman was not suitable company, and now look at the predicament you've wandered into. One must choose friends with discretion, not excitement. A crown is heavy enough without foolish companions. My dear Andrew, I told you that gentleman was not suitable company.
devils.
And now look at the predicament you've wandered into. One must choose friends with discretion, not excitement. A crown is heavy enough without foolish companions.
Yeah. So that it's only gonna give so much. That's why I had to go on and size her up by her eyes. Auntie Fee, please introduce the chat to Simeon Toko, the black guy that resurrected himself after the government kept trying to ill him. The government feared him because he was performing miracles. know him? Do I know him? Is that somebody you was telling me about? Is he the black guy? Oh, hold on. Let me see. Okay, but I want us to see this, and then I'm going to go on, and then I'll pull him up. I didn't watch this. I wanted us to watch this one together because, you know, President Obama say he can't speak on, he know that the aliens exist, right? But he said not at Area 51. And remember I said, unless they didn't want him to know about it. Yeah, I remember. So let's hear what they finna say about Area 51.
Area 51 housed extraterrestrial, I'll call them visitors. I was stationed there between 1982 and 1985 at various times. During that time period, the only thing we had there were live ETs. One escaped, and it escaped from that facility. So we assisted in search and capture of that ET. The one that escaped was called a quataloid. It was a insect-like, similar to a praying mantis. I saw it after it had been neutralized by military police personnel. And after it had escaped, then I was given access because we had another one in captivity. And so I read about that particular species because we were concerned that if one escaped, maybe the other one would. And we had to figure out how it escaped. During my time that I was there investigating and we were allowed into the area, I saw some other ETs. And I saw one that I would call Area 51 housed extraterrestrial, I'll call them visitors. I was stationed there between
I guess
1982
President
and
Obama
1985 at various times. During that time period,
wasn't
the
privy.
only thing we had there were live ETs. One escaped, and it escaped from that facility. So we
How did
assisted
ET
in search
escape?
and capture of that ET. The one that escaped was called a quataloid. It was a insect-like, similar to a praying mantis. I saw it after it had been neutralized by military police personnel. And after it had escaped, then I was given access because we had another one in captivity. And so I read about that particular species because we were concerned that if one escaped, maybe the other one would. And we had to figure out how it escaped. During my time that I was there investigating and we were allowed into the area, I saw some other ETs. And I saw one that I would call
So I guess they did not allow President Obama to go down in Area 51 or wherever he had access to. That's not where it was. Or, I don't know. That seemed like that was a long time ago. But, it's some freaky, crazy stuff going on. But he felt the need to Trump, go ahead and expose it or tell it since President Obama made mention of it, pissed him off.
That's an allegation that was
took his little shine. Yeah. But, sir, we don't care. We want the Epstein files. Let's get to the judge.
Joining me now, of course, is my friend, Judge Michael Ludick, a former federal...
Yeah, can y'all please hit the like button? Hold on.
Hey, it's Max from UNFTR for the Midas Touch Network. Remember this? Because...
This is Democracy Watch. Mark, we have two major decisions from two different state Supreme Courts that are going to have a massive impact on these upcoming elections. Can you explain what's happening right now?
Yeah, no, okay. I thought something just happened. Okay, let's do this.
Joining me now, of course, is my friend Judge Michael Ludig, a former judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit. Judge Ludig, welcome back to the show. I had chills listening to your speech last week. You invited me to be there for it.
Something always just happening with this mess.
Now is the time to use all tools at our disposal to fight tyranny, not simply voting every 2 years.
For the first time in 10 years, Allie, I not only have hope, today I have
Thank y'all for
confidence that America is going to prevail and long endure. Today is another America time of testing. That time has come to us, our generation. And I believe that February 2026 will be remembered as the turning point in America, when Americans once again declared their independence from tyrannical rule. America has had several times of testing, as you alluded to, times that had America time of testing. That time has come to us, our generation, confidence that America is going to prevail and long endure. Today is another America time of testing. That time has come to us, our generation. And I believe that February 2026 will be remembered as the turning point in America, when Americans once again declared their independence from tyrannical rule. America has had several times of testing, as you alluded to, times that have tried men's souls, in the words of Thomas Paine. The most notable, of course, being at its founding 250 years ago, but also at the time of the Civil War and the Civil Rights era in the 1960s and 70s, and now today. At every time of testing, Americans summoned the courage to speak truth to power in order originally to secure their liberty and their freedoms and their self-government. And then thereafter, over the past 250 years, to retain and resecure their liberty and their government of the people, by the people, and for the people. These several times of testing, Allie, over the past 250 years, have now all converged into the times in which we are living in America today. Indeed, they've converged into this very day, even into this very month of February 2026.
Judge, I want to go back to 2021, January 5th, in which you posted a tweet. It was the first of a 7-tweet thread in which you said the only responsibility and power of the vice president under the Constitution is to faithfully count the Electoral College votes as they have been cast. Seems like an obvious thing to say, but that was an important message. That was directed to support Mike Pence in not doing Donald Trump's bidding.
Right.
That tweet perhaps may have changed the course of history. You paid a price for that. And I think that's important, because right now Americans are realizing that in order to uphold their democracy, and I agree with you, I'm hopeful, but they are understanding that there is a price to pay. We've already seen 2 lives lost in those shootings in Minneapolis. You paid a price for saying something that was just obvious.
Well, Ali, that's really beside the point. The real point is that almost anyone in America could have tweeted the very same words that I tweeted. So basic was the proposition that under the Constitution of the United States of America, an incumbent president cannot ignore the will of the American people and attempt to overturn that election. But it was Mike Pence, then Vice President of the United States of America, who was the hero of that day and of those times in America. It was really his courage that stood up for the United States of America and all that we've ever held dear.
Let me ask you about this ruling yesterday from the Supreme Court. It was on a narrow issue of tariffs and taxation, and one that no one was particularly surprised at it evolved in the way it should have evolved. Donald Trump thereafter had a remarkable press conference. You spoke to the New York Times about this, in which you said, before the entire world, it was the president's most spectacular display yet of his utter disrespect for the Constitution and his contempt for the Supreme Court of the United States. Tell me about what you saw happening yesterday.
Well, Ali, like millions and millions of others around the world, I watched every second of that spectacular display by the President of the United States. And it's really the words before the entire world in that New York Times quote that we should focus on. Before the entire world, the President of the United States held that hour-long press conference in which he displayed spectacularly, yet again, his utter disrespect and contempt for the Constitution and for the Supreme Court of the United States in the plainest language, unequivocal language, frightening language to the world and to the American people. I believe that that press conference, not the Supreme Court's decision, and not what could have been the president's response to that decision, but the press conference that will define this president and his presidency for all of American history.
You talk about this disrespect for the court. It was also pretty personal. He issued disrespect toward the justices themselves, including two whom he had appointed. You've talked about this for a long time. There are implications to using this sort of language about judges. And we have seen threats to judges. Amy Coney Barrett's family has suffered because of this. You feel that that's an important line that the president keeps crossing?
Yes, with emphasis on keeps crossing. You know, as I said publicly and even on your show a little over a year ago, on his first day back in office, the president declared war on the rule of law and the federal judiciary. And he's viciously waged that war against the federal judiciary in particular every day since, up to yesterday. Vicious, unprecedented in all of American history. And it may be unprecedented in the history of the world, Ali. I can't imagine any other world leader speaking of that country's Supreme Court in the way that the President of the United States did yesterday. It was vicious, ad hominem. I mean, he called the court a disgrace. You know, he even went so far by the end of the press conference to say that the families of the justices who ruled against him should be ashamed of their family member. I believe that's correct because when I heard those words, Ali,
you was ready to fight. He was ready to fight. He was wanting to say a fight come with it.
I just shivered for America.
For us.
I just shivered for America.
So when I asked you last week about what to do for America, everybody has a different way of doing this, but you did believe that at this point, voting is, as you said to me, voting is necessary but not sufficient. And when I said, what's the extra part? You said that we're going to have to take to the streets en masse. We're going to have to protest peacefully, calmly, nonviolently, but that is now something that is heard and understood that is important.
Yes, that gets back to the way I described the moment
Yeah, this
at the top of
time,
this show.
y'all, we got to
and my
vote. We
remarks
got
to the
to.
City Bar of New
Whether we
York.
think it counts or
It's
not.
because of the confluence of the events of this past month in particular. The horrific events in Minneapolis, the Super Bowl halftime show protesting Donald Trump's immigration and deportation policies, and then the tariff decision yesterday and the president's press conference on the Supreme Court's tariff decision. This particular confluence of events over the past month has brought America to, and I believe beyond, the tipping point. And what has happened through all of American history when Americans have been brought to that tipping point and beyond? Well, we know it began with the founders of this great nation. You know, they summoned the courage to dissent, to protest, if you will, and even to wage war against the tyranny that beset the founders at that time. Waged a war, the Revolutionary War, Allie, to secure the freedoms and liberties and the rights and the self-government that we have today embodied in the Constitution of the United States. And then thereafter, you know, in the Civil War, same thing. Americans summoned up their courage to protest and dissent from injustice. And then so again in the 60s and 70s, led by Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Every moment in the past 250 years when America itself was at a crossroads, at a moment in which, as Abraham Lincoln said, America might no longer endure, Americans have risen. They've summoned the courage from within, from deep within, to dissent and protest against the evil, whether from within or from without, of the United States of America. That's what I believe we are witnessing today. And that's why I said at the top of the show, for the first time in 10 years, Allie, I have not just hope, but I have the belief that we have come to the turning point and that America and Americans are going to answer the call from our founders and ancestors to defend the United States of America.
Oh, he pulled the ancestors in there. He pulled the ancestors.
I believe we are witnessing today, and that's why I said at the top of the show, for the first time in 10 years, Allie, I have not just hope, but I have the belief that we have come to the turning point and that America and Americans are going to answer the call from our founders and ancestors to defend the United States of America.
Wow. Alrighty then. Hold on. Hold on. Can I get y'all to hit the like button, please? I had 130 some people in here. I only got 48 likes. I'm an hour and 9 minutes in. What we doing? What we doing? The secret force. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. The secret. Yeah, I don't know that person. Hey, Janet. Hey. Hey, Peter. It's time I saw you. Oh, yeah, Janet. Ooh-wee. Somebody was going in on me earlier, and I was just shocked. You hadn't put them out. I said, what? I mean, they was going ham to the ham. And I was just talking. I said, hey, Sarah. I was like, I know Janet. Oh, yeah. Gertrude. I think I got everybody that I may have missed. Yeah, Monty was laughing. Because I was like, I know, look at him in there laughing. I know good and dang well. What? Janet let them get me like that? And she got a wrench? I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. Hold on, where are we going to next? There's something going on in the courts. Let's check it out.
These facilities like Dillon. Now, so many Department of Justice lawyers and their staff are.
You're talking about the other live.
The ones who are left standing.
I'm talking about the live before this one, when we was into the Black History. Somebody threatened me and everything. I mean, they was having a good old time, and I didn't even know it. And you was the only one that had a wrench, and I guess you had left, and I was just attacked.
Held in contempt because they're unable to keep up with the paperwork. At least one DOJ lawyer in humiliating fashion has been held in contempt. Now, so many Department of Justice lawyers and their staff are quitting.
They quit.
The ones who are left standing are now being held in contempt because they're unable to keep up with the paperwork. At least one DOJ lawyer in humiliating fashion has been held in contempt in a very serious way. And this DOJ lawyer has blamed just their inability to keep up with the paperwork because so many DOJ lawyers have quit. And what's fascinating about this federal contempt order by this judge is we've seen so many judges threaten these DOJ lawyers with contempt, and now it feels that the dam has opened, the floodgates have opened, and now we're going to see lots of these lawyers who are left standing now have these contempt rulings against them, which also will impact their future ability to get jobs and to progress in their career in a post-Trump regime world. I mean, by all accounts, this guy, Matthew Ishiara, who is this lawyer who used to be a JAG lawyer, military lawyer. Remember how we were covering here, how these JAG lawyers were now becoming AUSAs, assistant United States attorneys, because all the AUSAs who are like your line prosecutors, these are like your workhorses at the DOJ, they were all either quitting or being forced out or being fired. You know, so these JAG lawyers having good careers, they're doing their thing. They went to specialized training in schools where they learned about JAG-related stuff. And now they're being all of a sudden thrown into the job as being AUSAs, being federal prosecutors, different rules, different laws, an entirely different structure, right? The federal rules of criminal procedure versus the military code of procedure. Very different how these things are litigated and what the rules are. And so now this guy, you know, Ishiara, he gets moved over. He thinks he's trying to do his best. All of a sudden, he's getting flooded with paperwork, specifically these habeas petitions from migrants who are saying we haven't gotten due process and we need to be released because there hasn't been any bond hearings and there hasn't been any, or habeas corpus petitions have been granted and now the paperwork needs to be completed to release us from these facilities like Dilley and other ones that are in Texas where they're really horrible conditions. And the lawyer literally can't keep up with the paperwork. It's
not enough attorneys, not enough people to work it.
It fell through the cracks. I'm not being malicious. The lawyer apologized. It's just we're understaffed and I missed the deadlines and I'm sorry, but you missing the deadline, Ishiara, when your job is to, at the bare minimum, meet the deadline, and then once you meet the deadlines, to actually do the work, it's causing people to be unlawfully detained and suffer and be tortured when they're supposed to be free. So it's not just a mere missed deadline in, say, I don't know, some case that involves I don't know, some issue that's, you know, meaningless. These are people's lives at stake. So you have this federal judge in Texas, and this district court judge is named Laura Provenzino.
They're attacking me again because I'm holding them accountable and because I'm doing my job.
I know they are.
And she
I
made
know
this
they
finding
are.
that this government attorney, Michael Ishiara, used to be a JAG lawyer. Now he got moved to be a federal prosecutor, was found in civil contempt for violating her orders in a habeas corpus case. The attorney who got these contempt sanctions is Matthew Ishiara, a JAG attorney from the Department of Defense, assisting the local U.S. Attorney Office. And Provenzino ordered a detained immigrant who was held by ICE in El Paso to be released in Minnesota with all of his identification papers. ICE then released the man with none of his papers, forcing his attorneys to find him a shelter for the night and a flight back to Minnesota, because these people are being picked off the street in Minnesota, shipped to another location, and then once the habeas corpus petition was granted, they just threw the guy out in the middle of the night into the street with no IDs, no money, no wallet, no anything. And the guy was like, where do I go? Where do I go? And so the lawyer brought this up to the judge, and they said, Judge, this is why we specifically attach to the orders these requirements, and the lawyers at the DOJ are not following through with what your orders are. The judge said she's imposing a civil contempt order to force the government to comply. Government attorney Matthew Ishiara is personally responsible for $500 daily fines every day the man does not have his papers, starting immediately. Ishiara issued an apology for allowing the order in the habeas case to fall through the cracks. He blamed the situation on case overload and significant understaffing in the U.S. Attorney's Office. He says that since he was moved from being a military lawyer to a federal prosecutor, he picked up nearly 130 habeas cases in just the last month. So 130 cases with 130 different paperwork was thrown on his desk, and he can't keep up with the paperwork. Well, that's what your job is. And how did it come to this? Let's bring in Harry Littman from the Talking Feds YouTube channel, Talking Feds podcast, and Talking Feds Substack. Harry, when you and I have been covering all of these DOJ lawyers and staff quitting, 8,000 quitting or being fired, and now JAG lawyers being moved in, this is a consequence of understaffing. But people like Ishiara doesn't seem, from all of the accounts I've read, as a bad guy with malicious intent the way Bondi and Blanche are. But now this is how people know him when he gets Googled. Ishiara, he's the guy who said, I can't handle the paperwork. If I was running the law firm back in the day, I wouldn't hire this guy. If I run a law firm in the future, I wouldn't hire Ishiara. You've worked at law firms at all levels. You wouldn't hire an Ishiara after looking at this guy's background. This is not that Ishiara, to me, I care more about the migrant who was tortured than Ishiara, but also we should reflect on how this DOJ chaos is now trickling down and ruining careers.
100%, and I agree. Well, I'll say I agree, but first of all, this is everything you laid out, Ben. This is really structural at this point. You have first a flood of habeas cases, and nobody is really prepared for them, along with a mass exodus of regular professionals. So new people coming in and, not even knowing which way the water fountain is, and they've got to deal with this. You also have, this is the very issue. We talked about this in Minnesota, where the chief judge says, you violated more orders, ICE, in a month, last month, than most agencies do in their entire lifetimes. It's this very one that they're fighting, which is, if under habeas corpus, as the Supreme Court says deportees are entitled to, if a court says you can be free pending your proceedings for immigration, that's the story, and you have ICE really recalcitrant and fighting that and sort of ignoring it. And then again, you have ICE as a kind of rogue agency. So that's the yes. Here's the but. Yeah, I feel for this guy. He's definitely overwhelmed, but man, oh man. When you get to the point of next time, we're talking contempt, and that's been endemic, right? We've seen it more and more, as you say. Courts tiptoeing up to that line, and finally this judge says, you're over it. And that's how it works. Warning, warning, warning. Next time I'm going to do contempt, and at that point, they've got to go through with it. At that point, you're an AUSA for the United States. If it ever gets to that point, you turn the place upside down before you let a court hold you in contempt. And guess what happened? They're being all cavalier about it. Everything is sort of, oh, just pretend. And now contempt came down, and I don't know if you saw the latest, but in fact, lo and behold, these identity papers turned up, and so I guess the total fine was $500. But it should not, under any circumstances, take that for an AUSA to just comply with court orders. One other point I wanted to make that they do seem to be doing a lot, and how heartless and malicious could this be? Putting people on planes, then a court says you can't just keep them. They've got to be out. So we'll fly them down to Texas and then see you later, and maybe or maybe not give papers. This is something that's happening again and again. So the real fault, if you want to call it that, is with the is with Bondi and Blanche, and the real boss, as we're told, Stephen Miller, should not be happening. But I'm sorry, AUSA looking at a court who says you've got to come up with this piece of paper, that's stop all the music or else resign or whatever. What really did happen is a harried new AUSA said, well, I'll have to let this one go and this one go and this one go and this one go. But this one was contempt. It's the end of the story, the credibility of the DOJ on the line. They were able to find it that day once the hammer came down. They could have found it the day before, and this reflects really poorly on the DOJ, notwithstanding that, yes, you're right, this is a complete overwhelmed and, to all appearances, decent fellow.
And it's not easy being an AUSA. I mean,
these days, yeah.
I mean, setting aside these days, but a normal, to get the job of AUSA is a highly competitive process. It's the top law students of the top law students of the top law students compete for these types of jobs.
And then they have to spend usually a couple years in the field before,
That's my point, is that before you get to do anything of substance like this, you're in the field, you're learning, it is almost like, for those who can think about it, in medical school, where it is your residency, it is what goes on before, even though you're technically a lawyer or a doctor, you still have your residency before you're out there really practicing under your own name. And so this guy getting thrown into the role of AUSA, then 130 habeas files land on his desk, and I'm sure there were other files and other matters because that office has been completely gutted. You wouldn't even know where to start, and then who are you going to call? Who's going to give you guidance? There's no real even supervisors there who know what they're doing to help you out. So
you call your client. I don't mean to interrupt, but that's right. No supervisor. Then you call your client. Say, okay, guys, the court has said, give us that piece of paper. And I can't say this for sure, but you can almost see I say, hey, where's that paper? Oh yeah, we'll get it to you. Bye. You do have a rogue recalcitrant agency that's been given a sort of a tacit green light to be lawless. That makes it very hard also. But man, push has come to shove, and it came to shove the day before. And if they could find it Thursday, they could have found it Wednesday. But yeah, they're just everything you say about how hard it is to get the jobs, the kind of people who get them, as A, all true, and B, all completely out the window now under Trump 2.0. That's been hollowed out, and they can't even
it is something
get
going on, and I don't know if it is. I don't know if I don't know. Cause old boy don't pop back out, and I hadn't seen him in a minute. Hold on. Let's get to the next one. Y'all hit the like button, please. Double tap the face of the screen and hit those 3 dots on the corner end. I would greatly appreciate it. What you mean he got served? Hold on. I got something in my ear telling me about my personality. How funny. I'm gonna come back to it. Hold on. It was something else that happened with the courts. I'm trying to find it. Trump panics. Not that one. Trump in state. I thought I had these in order.
Worst things you could possibly use of any of this. This is some of the worst things you could possibly be.
Come on. Okay, it's saying victims. Hold on. It is saying, let me go back. A victim's diary exposes Epstein's dark network.
One of the most disgusting and unsettling documents that were part of the latest Epstein DOJ document dump have to do with a girl who was 16 years old at the time, and what she wrote in her diary as she was allegedly abused by Epstein and his cronies. Before I get to the details, Jake, your 2 cents.
Yeah, so we've heard a lot about the different girls who were abused, but focusing in on one story like this, I think is going to give you a sense of the horrors that happened during this Epstein.
And he has the nerve to be having a dang
Think
temper
about all the
tantrum.
people who helped support this, as Anna tells you this heartbreaking story of what happened to this girl.
So if you, search for it, you can find her actual diary in which she wrote in her diary as this abuse was happening to her. And she names names. She wrote in code. I mean, it was really easy to decipher what she was saying, but I'm going to give you the screenshots from the FBI's interpretation of what she was writing in code, okay? So first, here's what we know about the girl who is now much older, but at the time she was 16.
Are y'all listening with y'all good ear?
And Down syndrome. She was born with mosaic.
Can I get y'all to hit the like button? And if you are, this is a disclaimer. I think they may mention that she has a symptom of Down syndrome. So if that's going to be a trigger for you, I'm going to ask that you go ahead and take some time. I'm going to give you a minute to go ahead and leave. We understand that they, on top of being taken advantage of, to know that there was something mentally delayed. Just takes it to a whole nother level of disgust. Okay, can y'all go ahead and hit the like button, because I don't want to stop asking y'all to hit the like button. So just double tap and hit those three dots at the top corner right. If not, I'll just sit here, because it's 131 people in here right now, and I do not have 100. I only have 100 likes. So get out. Go somewhere else, please. Dang, Auntie I don't feel like playing with it. I don't feel like that tonight. Hey, Danielle. I don't feel like that. I need for y'all to hit the like. You gotta take your like back and get out. And if you don't on the phone and you don't have the double tap the face of your phone. Y'all been here long enough to know how to get this taken care of quickly. And I'm an hour and 32 minutes in. I just don't feel like going through that with y'all tonight. I really don't. So when I shut down right in the middle of something really, really good, don't be mad at me. Okay?
About the girl who is now much older, but at the time she was 16. She has autism and Down syndrome. She was born with mosaic Down syndrome, which is apparently a rare condition which gave her some of the features of typical Down syndrome, but did not affect her physical appearance at all. In fact, in the diary, she actually writes about her autism. We'll get to that in just a second. She talks a little bit about how she doesn't like that people are always like making fun of Spirit Airlines, because Spirit happens to be the only airline company that's made accommodations for autistic people.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's just, evil exists, man. It just does, and I want to do something about it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So they liked her because they thought she was easier to take advantage of because of her condition. And then apparently she was really beautiful, and they kept talking about her beautiful blonde hair and blue eyes and how she was like a porcelain doll. And so in the way that they targeted people they thought were easier to take advantage of is extra sickening.
Yep.
And wait till you get to what one of the most top finance people in the world might have done to her, which is just an extra layer.
So in her diary, she writes about getting impregnated, and in some of those instances, forced to have an abortion. In other instances, she did give birth. I mean, if we lived in an actual democracy in a country that cared about justice, we would find out what happened to those children, right? But we have no idea. Now, let's get to what she wrote in her diary. Again, this was written down by the FBI from her diary, interpretations from her diary. She says, a couple of months and 2 pink lines with a hold on being with others until after it was positive. So obviously she's talking about a pregnancy test there. I want to die. Why didn't she protect me? I'm assuming she's talking about Ghislaine Maxwell there, because she makes references to Ghislaine throughout her diary and talks about how she's, sometimes she protects her, sometimes she doesn't. As long as I'm wearing what you want, there is no respect for me as a human. I am nothing but your property and incubator. You only trust me when I am under your complete control. I will never trust another man ever. I am the only one who provides and sacrifices everything. I give and give out of terror,
16.
and you take all of me. You need me to continue keeping us all connected. Okay, so there she is mentioning that she's like an incubator. She continues, my heart belonged to her. She was so very beautiful. She was perfect. I can't bring myself to write what happened. I am beyond broken. She's talking about a baby here. Okay. I only got 10 to 15 minutes to hold and feed her before they took her. She is mine. I want her back. Distraught.
So, guys, this is the story of one person. Never went to a court of law. We don't know, especially as you get names later in the story. We've got to find a way to, as we're all distraught, not to jump to complete conclusions, right? But we also don't have any reason to doubt this particular story. There are some other stories that seem outlandish. You don't know where it came from, but this is a direct Epstein victim, and so it is compelling. At the same time, we're not reaching any conclusions because that is an incredibly strange story about taking the baby away. I have no idea what that means, and God, I would love to get it into a court of law. God, I would love to have some sort of justice. By the way, in either direction, if you're accused of any of this, this is some of the worst things you could possibly be accused of. I know I would want to clear my name. So are we ever going to get into a court of law?
No, the country's run by pedophiles. Anyway, let me continue. She detailed one of her abortions in her diary. She wrote, close your eyes, close your eyes, close your eyes. Don't speak. She doesn't talk. I can't stop shaking and it's been a week. A decision was made, but I can't tell Jeffrey. These things happen. Why didn't I close my eyes fast enough? The doctor was different again, I think from Israel. He had kind eyes, but didn't speak directly to me. This was different. She continues. A shot and those rod-like things had a hook and so much pain. Ghislaine said to push all the pain away. I don't understand. Blood and water all over the bed. And she was right. Like a feeling when your tummy hurts and you have to push. She said to close my eyes and put her hands over my eyes, but I didn't close them because of these tiny cries. I'm so lost. I saw between her fingers this tiny head and body in the doctor's hands. It reached its tiny arm up and had a tiny foot. I closed my eyes and no more. In her diary, there are multiple examples of her begging for help, begging for someone to find her, begging for someone to save her. I'll give you one example.
Oh, wow.
Please release me from this torture in hell.
Yeah. So it's interesting that so far, not a lot of coverage of some of these harrowing stories within the files. I get some of it, which is, hey, listen, it's hard to verify, so what do we do with this thing? But everybody's already reading these, and it's so what's happened is there's an interesting situation now where a lot of people online know
Where were
this,
the parents? Who
but
knows?
none of the shows are covering it.
They were kidnapped.
So, and none of the legacy media.
So these
is
were
covering it.
kids that were on the milk cartons. These were kidnapped kids. She couldn't go home. She was asking that somebody to rescue her from the torture.
I saw between her fingers this tiny head and body in the doctor's hands. It reached.
Only parents that need to be prosecuted are the parents who were selling their kids to the elite. If some of these kids were runaways, some of them were kidnapped. So how are you going to prosecute the parents, Janet? I mean, we Sasha Riley's dad, yes, he was a part of it. But if the parents were not a part of it, why should the parents be prosecuted? I don't even get that.
raised its tiny arm up and had a tiny foot. I closed my eyes and no more. In her diary, there are multiple examples of her begging for help, begging for someone to find her, begging for someone to save her.
She said that she expected Ghislaine Maxwell to protect her. So that means that her parents were not around. If she was relying on Ghislaine Maxwell, we know that they kidnapped kids. They had them on cartons. I went over earlier about how a Wayfair used to have them listed under furniture and would have their names. I mentioned how the kids that used to be in the post office, they have kidnapped the kids and they would put the pictures as missing, and that's how people would go into the post office or the missing section, the missing kids, and they would bid on or purchase them by way of those pictures on the milk cartons during that time or the pictures in the post office. That's how they would make their selection. Right in our face. So, no. Now, Sasha Riley's dad adopted him just to do that to him.
One example, please release me from this torture in hell.
Yeah. So it's interesting that so far, not a lot of coverage of some of these harrowing stories within the files. I get some of it, which is, hey, listen, it's hard to verify, so what do we do with this thing? But everybody's already reading these. And it's so what's happened is there's an interesting situation now where a lot of people online know this, but none of the shows are covering it. So, and none of the legacy media is covering it. So there's two
they don't
different
want the
worlds.
media covering it.
People who understand some of the horrors that happen, and others who are kind of clueless about who did it, why they did it, what did they do, how bad was it. So our job is to bring this to you and give you the context of, hey, it's without going to court of law, impossible to know if it's exactly right or not. By the way, the overall account could be right, but details could be wrong, right? So I tell you that again before we give you some names here that she mentioned, and then so take it always something that isn't proven in court with some grain of salt.
With a grain
your
of salt.
decision on how you choose to deal with this information. But our job is to present that information to you and not to hide it from you.
So she does name names in her diary. We'll begin with someone who allegedly committed suicide in prison, Jean-Luc Brunel. He was one of the people who was supplying girls to Epstein. She writes in her diary, Jean-Luc Brunel is a disgusting pig with bad breath, and I am almost positive does these disgusting things because he is struggling with maybe being gay. 6 weeks wasn't even given before being sent back, punishment for trying to run. Why can no one help me? Ghislaine is gone. I am so lost and my heart is broken. Is this my destiny?
So one quick thing about Jean-Luc Brunel. So I didn't know much about him until recently. So he's a guy who's in the modeling business, and then they get involved in Epstein's assembly line of young underage girls who get funneled to powerful people, yes, including Donald Trump, but including many others that you're seeing in these. So in fact, I think that the press does an interesting job of almost diverting your attention by just talking about the famous people and not about who organized this. I mean, look at the level of detail here. This is a very organized process. If you believe this story, she gets shuttled around between different people. You're going to see more of that in a second. And there's an organization here, right? And then when I found out that Jean-Luc Brunel died in prison,
Committed suicide
in prison, I was like, oh. And then as you were looking through the files, there's another woman who said she was part of it and that they were going to kill her, and then she dies right afterwards. And so there's a lot of suicides around this story, and I now don't believe any of them were suicides.
I don't.
And
Thank
so
you.
you
I'm
can
so
say, how
glad
dare
you
you? The
said
government
that.
has already ordained it that.
Well,
you must bow to the government. The same government that was hiding all this?
Yeah, the government has
No.
lost credibility. Okay?
Yeah, the government has zero credibility. And it doesn't matter who's in charge. Biden, Trump, Democrats, or Republicans, they all have zero credibility.
So let's move on to the
Thank you for
the
saying that.
financier,
I don't believe none of that.
who was also mentioned in her diary. And the financier I'm referring to is investment banker Leon Black. So this next graphic will show you what I mean when I say that she writes in code. It's not really code. So let's take a look at the next graphic, graphic 7. It's another poem that she titled Stopped Dead. And right next to the title of the poem, you'll see the name Leon Black. That's the way that she would write in code, right? Instead of writing from the left side to the right, she would like write words up and down like that. Okay, so she mentions Leon Black there, but that wasn't the only time she mentions Leon Black. Let's go to the next one. So she met Black in New York City in 2000, and he was introduced to her as Epstein's special friend. So this is directly from her diary entry about this. And decoded, it says the following. Even though Ghislaine said it was best to take me home because Mr. Black is so important for some reason, my health, this is going to be hell to pay, or there is going to be hell to pay. I ruined their trio, and I am dramatic. When that fat F bit me, he threw me on the floor and got blood all over Jeffrey's carpet, and I am the issue? Who the F bites someone? Sick. No one is that important, and Leon can go F himself. I hate New York. So there had been some reporting about this a few years ago, actually. So in 2023, I came across this Newsweek piece about allegations made against Leon Black. And I'm going to read you the excerpts. Black retired from his investment firm Apollo in July 2021 after a review found he paid Epstein $158 million for financial advice between 2012 and 2017 after the pedophile's criminal conviction. Interesting. So as I read that piece, it did make mention of one of Epstein's victims accusing Leon Black of biting her in her private area to the point where she bled.
Yeah, so there's even more harrowing stuff in there about the nature of that particular rape. About how she was expecting that he was going to be like Epstein, and Epstein gets massages and then he proceeds to sex, etc., and is apparently not usually violent. Whereas Leon Black slammed her on the massage table, according to her, so hard that it knocked the wind out of her, and then started ripping her clothes off, bit her, and she started screaming, and he would constantly cover her mouth. And so now, guys, in terms of how do you judge this one, first of all, everyone makes their own judgment call about things that haven't been proven in court, but $158 million. Well, he says it was for financial advice. Wait a minute. Leon Black is one of the top financiers in the world. If you need financial advice and you need to pay $158 million for it, no one would ever hire you again.
That wasn't for financial advice.
There's no way in the world that one financial guru asks anyone else, or let alone Epstein, for financial advice and pays them $158 million for it? No. So you have a good sense there. And by the way, Leon Black is, in retreat over this. And
he got fired. That's not the one. Hold on.
If it's true.
Yeah, I believe it's true. They shouldn't have lied. He did what? Y'all, please hit the like button.
Yeah, the government has zero credibility.
None.
And it doesn't matter who's in charge. Biden, Trump, Democrats, or Republicans, they all have zero credibility.
So let's move on to the financier, who was also mentioned in her diary. And the financier I'm referring to is investment banker Leon Black. So this next graphic will show you what I mean when I say that she writes in code. It's not really code. So let's take a look at the next graphic, graphic 7. It's another poem that she titled Stopped Dead. And right next to the title of the poem, you'll see the name Leon Black. That's the way that she would write in code, right? Instead of writing from the left side to the right, she would like write words up and down like that. Okay. So she mentions Leon Black there, but that wasn't the only time she mentions Leon Black. Let's go to the next one. So she met Black in New York City in 2000, and he was introduced to her as Epstein's special friend. So this is directly from her diary entry about this. And decoded, it says the following. Even though Ghislaine said it was best to take me home because Mr. Black is so important for some reason, my health, this is going to be hell to pay, or there is going to be hell to pay. I ruined their trio, and I am dramatic. When that fat F bit me, he threw me on the floor and got blood all over Jeffrey's carpet, and I am the issue? Who the F bites someone? Sick. No one is that important, and Leon can go F himself. I hate New York. So there had been some reporting about this a few years ago, actually. So in 2023, I came across this Newsweek piece about allegations made against Leon Black. And I'm going to read you the excerpts. Black retired from his investment firm Apollo in July 2021 after a review found he paid Epstein $158 million for financial advice between 2012 and 2017 after the pedophile's criminal conviction. Interesting. So as I read that piece, it did make mention of one of Epstein's victims accusing Leon Black of biting her in her private area to the point where she bled.
Yeah, so
Wow.
there's even more harrowing stuff
16.
in there about the nature of that particular rape. About how she was expecting that he was going to be like Epstein, and Epstein gets massages and then he proceeds to sex, etc., and is apparently not usually violent. Whereas Leon Black slammed her on the massage table, according to her, so hard that it knocked the wind out of her, and then started ripping her clothes off, bit her, and she started screaming, and he would constantly cover her mouth. And so now, guys, in terms of how do you judge this one, first of all, everyone makes their own judgment call about things that haven't been proven in court, but $158 million. He says it was for financial advice. Wait a minute. Leon Black is one of the top financiers in the world. If you need financial advice and you need to pay $158 million for it, no one would ever hire you again.
That wasn't for financial
There's
advice.
no way in the world that one financial guru asks anyone else, or let alone Epstein, for financial advice and pays them $158 million for it? No. So you have a good sense there. And by the way, Leon Black is, in retreat over this, and he quit Apollo over that. He quit another.
He should be hanged for this.
If it's true.
Prosecuted, okay, we still have a justice system, but he should be investigated, he should be prosecuted, and if convicted, let's bring back public hangings. By the way, I don't know if people know yet, but let me be abundantly clear. I have changed my stance on the death penalty. I think in some cases, the death penalty makes sense. This is a perfect example, and it should be public, should be on the town square, hanged in front of the public. That's what I want to see.
If it's true.
If it's true.
If it's true, and then, you could argue about whether that's the right form of justice.
think
But I
it
would
is.
love any kind of justice, especially given the last email.
Watch the pig squeal. Anyway, final thing that I'll mention here is, the Epstein files that were just released by the DOJ did a terrible job in redacting the names of the victims who wanted their names redacted. They were assured their names would be redacted, but they weren't. And so what I found really fascinating was that while the victims weren't protected, the predators seem to have been protected, including this person who sent an email to Jeffrey Epstein. We don't know who it is. We don't even have their name. They just simply wrote, I am in China. I will be in the U.S. second week of May. To which Jeffrey Epstein responded, where are you? Are you okay? I loved the torture video. I think the public deserves to know who sent Jeffrey Epstein a torture video, and more importantly, what happened to that person? Where is that person today? Was that person ever investigated?
Okay, and where's the video? Because we know there were videos. We know that there was cameras in every room, including the massage rooms. And now our government tells us, oh no, well, golly gee, we can't find any of the videos. And then we have legacy media doing nonsensical stories about, oh, we don't know if there were video. Yeah, I mean, sure, every room had a camera, but we don't know that they taped anything. Oh, come on. Come on, please. So now people are starting to have a little bit of despair here and significant anger, because they're saying, well, okay, our government obviously doesn't work for us because they knew all of this for decades. And they covered it all up. And it didn't matter who you voted for. They all covered it up. So I don't want to hear any crap about Democrat or Republican on this. All of them are guilty.
That's right.
Everyone that was ever in the executive branch that had any information about this, you all covered it up. And it's super obvious why you covered it up, because it involves intelligence agencies. But now you turn to the national media and they're like, intelligence agencies? No, the only country being mentioned is Russia. Are you kidding me? If you read the files, it is nonstop. Israel, Israel, Israel. Even in this story, randomly, an Israeli doctor shows up. Not a Russian one, not a Bulgarian one, not a Thai one. It's constantly Israel. But I don't know. The reason I bring that up here is I don't know if that's why the media is like, shush, shush,
that is
shush.
Why. That is why.
Right?
That is why.
But look at these atrocities.
That is why.
So the government says, under no condition will we serve the American people. We will serve the monsters who did this. And then our media comes in and goes, Bill Gates, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, whatever, shiny objects, squirrels. Okay, go get all the sons of bitches. I don't mind that at all. But you're not talking about who organized this. It is obviously a giant organization.
Your
They send women all across the globe to some of the most powerful people on earth. And the mainstream media wants us to believe that there was no organization. It was just Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell just walking around. And they never mention Ghislaine Maxwell's connections to Israeli intelligence. They never mention Epstein's deep connections. Israeli spies lived in his home. And they're shush. No, we're not going to shush. This is stuff made of like horror. These are horror stories. And so how...
Can I get y'all to hit the like button? Hey, empathy.
Anyway, final thing that I'll mention here is, the Epstein files that were just released by the DOJ did a terrible job in redacting the names of the victims who wanted their names redacted. They were assured their names would be redacted, but they weren't.
Mad at them. That was
so
Trump.
What I found really fascinating
way of punishing.
$158 million. Well, he says it was for financial advice. Wait a minute. Leon Black is one of the top financiers in the world. If you need financial advice and you need to pay $158 million for it, no one would ever hire you again.
That wasn't for financial advice.
There's no way in the world that one financial guru asks anyone else, or let alone Epstein, for financial advice and pays them $158 million for it? No. So you have a good sense there. And by the way, Leon Black is, in retreat over this, and he quit Apollo over that. He quit another.
He should be hanged for this.
If it's true.
Prosecuted, okay, we still have a justice system, but he should be investigated, he should be prosecuted, and if convicted, let's bring back public hangings. By the way, I don't know if people know yet, but let me be abundantly clear. I have changed my stance on the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
I think in some cases, the death penalty makes sense. This is a perfect example, and it should be public, should be on the town square, hanged in front of the public. That's what I want to see.
If it's true.
If it's true.
If it's true, and then, you could argue about whether that's the right form of justice. But I would love any kind of justice, especially given the last
Watch the pig squeal. Anyway, final thing that I'll mention here is, the Epstein files that were just released by the DOJ did a terrible job in redacting the names of the victims who wanted their names redacted. They were assured their names would be redacted, but they weren't. And so what I found really fascinating was that while the victims weren't protected, the predators seem to have been protected, including this person who sent an email to Jeffrey Epstein. We don't know who it is. We don't even have their name. They just simply wrote, I am in China. I will be in the U.S. second week of May. To which Jeffrey Epstein responded, where are you? Are you okay? I loved the torture video.
Oh, yeah.
I think the public deserves to know who sent Jeffrey Epstein a torture video And more importantly, what happened to that person? Where is that person today? Was that person ever investigated?
Yeah, he had to resign or
And where's the
something.
video? Because we know
I
there were
seen it.
videos. We know that there was cameras in every room,
She's
including the
outside in the
massage rooms.
backyard. Looked like
And
when
now our
somebody was
government tells
putting that
us,
light
oh no, well, golly
from the
gee, we
sun,
can't
a
find any of
mirror.
the videos. And then we have legacy media doing
Crazy.
nonsensical stories about, oh, you know, we don't know if there were video. Yeah, I mean, sure, every room had a camera, but we don't know that they taped anything. Oh, come on. Come on, please. So now people are starting to have a little bit of despair here because, and significant anger, because they're saying, well, okay, our government obviously doesn't work for us because they knew all of this for decades and they covered it all up. And it didn't matter who you voted for, they all covered it up. So I don't want to hear any crap about Democrat or Republican on this. All of them are guilty.
That's right.
Everyone that was ever in the executive branch that had any information about this, you all covered it up. And it's super obvious why you covered it up, because it involves intelligence agencies. But now you turn to the national media and they're like, intelligence agencies? No, the only country being mentioned is Russia. Are you kidding me? If you read the files, it is nonstop. Israel, Israel, Israel. Even in this story, randomly, an Israeli doctor shows up. Not a Russian one, not a Bulgarian one, not a Thai one. It's constantly Israel. But I don't know. The reason I bring that up here is I don't know if that's why the media is like, shush, shush,
that is
shush.
Why. That is why.
Right?
That is why.
But look at these atrocities.
That is why.
So the government says, under no condition will we serve the American people. We will serve the monsters who did this. And then our media comes in and goes, Bill Gates, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, whatever, shiny objects, squirrels. Okay, go get all the sons of bitches. I don't mind that at all. But you're not talking about who organized this. It is obviously a giant
one who is
organization.
going,
They
Cam.
send women all across the globe to some of the most powerful people on earth.
But
And
that man, the
mainstream media
limo
wants us to
driver,
believe that there was no organization.
he
It was
even
just
knows.
Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell just walking around. Like they never mentioned
Jim
Ghislaine
Jordan.
Maxwell's connections to Israeli intelligence. They never mentioned Epstein's deep connections. Israeli spies lived in his home. And they're shush, shush. No, we're not going to shush. This is stuff made of like horror. These are horror stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so how horrible are the people in charge that they know this happens
No,
and they make sure we never
he
find
have
out
no
about it?
regard.
And what?
He don't even have an apology. He don't even have an apology. He has an apology and hurt for the predators. It's like it's a predator club. Okay, y'all, we on to the next one. Get the likes up, please. Double tap the face of your phone or hit the three dots at the top right. I'll wait. Get the lights up, please.
Walking makes you old. Tai Chi makes you young.
surrounding Donald Trump just got even deeper, more nefarious, and just generally all around worse. Over the past couple of days on this show, we've been covering a specific allegation in the Epstein files from a woman who claims that when she was between the ages of 13 and 15 years old, Epstein introduced her to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump subsequently assaulted her. That's an allegation that was included in the Epstein files. Matter of fact, it was included in this document that was put together by the Department of Justice, listing allegations in the files against prominent men. As you can see right up here, this is the one made against Donald Trump. Number one, I won't read it out loud. It is very, very graphic. But this woman claims that when she was between the ages of 13 and 15 years old, Donald Trump did that to her. The one that's labeled number one. And so we've learned more about this allegation, that the FBI interviewed her not once, but 4 times. They deemed her a credible accuser. And in addition to this, the victim, this woman who claims that this happened to her when she was a girl, included her allegation in a lawsuit against Epstein's estate that she won in 2021. The problem is, though, we've gotten more reporting on this from journalist Roger Sollenberger, who has been fantastic on this claim in particular. He's really dug deep. And now we're learning that Ghislaine Maxwell may have blackmail on Donald Trump. She may have
and that
dirt
may
on
be
him,
why
which,
she's out.
could explain why Donald Trump has given Maxwell such favorable treatment.
Nah,
how she
baby,
was
she
given
out.
access to a 7-hour-long interview with Todd Blanche. How she was moved from a high-level security prison in Tallahassee to a low-level security prison in Texas. And experts were baffled by that decision. Why that happened in the first place, nobody has any idea. Nobody has told us why that happened. But maybe the fact that, or the possibility, I should say, that Ghislaine Maxwell has dirt on Donald Trump, maybe that plays into it. But we're going to get into the story. I'm going to break it down for you really quickly. Once again, this is from journalist Roger Sollenberger. So, the Department of Justice deleted records revealing that Maxwell holds potential blackmail over Donald Trump. Really stunning reporting here. Really well done. Let me just zoom in a little bit better. That's a little bit better. On Wednesday, Roger Sollenberger reported that the Department of Justice had removed from its Epstein file database a key document about a woman who told the FBI that Donald Trump assaulted her when she was a child. By Thursday evening, it was once live again. And this was the document right here. You can see it, where it is noting all these different interviews with this Epstein victim. You can see her case file number right there matches with the accusation she made against Donald Trump. It's unclear why the DOJ deleted the document in the first place, and there's of course proof in this article that the document had been taken down. It's also unclear why they put it back up after his reporting, which included a screenshot of the relevant information and a link to an internet archive of the full record. The information in the document pertaining to the Trump accuser, whom the DOJ identifies as a victim of Epstein in the early to mid 1980s, doesn't appear altered in any way. So they took it down and then uploaded the exact same version. We have no idea why they did this. Like, genuinely no idea. The Department of Justice has not spoken on this specific allegation against Donald Trump and this specific document. So far, they've remained eerily quiet on this allegation, despite this reporting blowing up on social media. We've talked about it here as well. However, the existence of this record, more specifically the public's knowledge of its existence, carries significant implications when it comes to Donald Trump's relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell. Absolutely. I mean, absolutely, it contains a lot of significance, and that's because the document shows the FBI conducted not just 1, but 4 interviews with Trump's accuser. Let's just go back up here once more. You can see you have that number, the interview 302, another one. That's 4 interviews with 3 interview notes listed there. We only have 1 of these interviews, none of the interview notes, and the additional 3 interviews the American people do not have access to. But you know who does have access to it?
Who?
Ghislaine.
Yeah, okay, I get the likes up. Can y'all hit the like button, please?
Maxwell. That's because this document shows the FBI conducted not just 1, but 4 notes listed there. We only have 1 of these interviews, none of the interview notes, and the additional 3 interviews the American people do not have access to. But you know who does have access to it? Ghislaine Maxwell. That's because this document shows the FBI conducted not just one but 4 interviews with Trump's accuser, and as he reported on Wednesday, while the government gave all 4 of those interviews to Maxwell's legal team ahead of her trial, the government gave only one of those interviews to us in the Epstein files. In other words, this document shows that in choosing to withhold 3 of the 4 interviews from the Epstein files, the DOJ has granted Maxwell potential blackmail on the sitting president of the United States. Now, let me preface this by saying, or adding an asterisk perhaps, that it of course depends on what she said in these interviews, right? But we have no idea what she said in these interviews, this Trump accuser, because we don't have 3 of the 4. And even the one interview we have right now is heavily redacted. So we have no idea what she said in these interviews. Maxwell has all 4. We have 1. And this girl had already previously accused Donald Trump of assaulting her to the FBI. So it seems likely that she might bring that up again in another interview. And of course, she also stood by this claim because she included it in a lawsuit against Epstein's estate, which again, I will note, she won that lawsuit. She got a settlement in 2020.
Oh, wow.
One. So Maxwell has access to the document. We do not. He does add here that of course it depends on what she said in these interviews. Maxwell has all 4. We have 1. And this girl had already previously accused Donald Trump of assaulting her to the FBI. So it seems likely that she might bring that up again in another interview. And of course, she also stood by this claim because she included it in a lawsuit against Epstein's estate, which again, I will note, she won that lawsuit. She got a settlement in 2021. So Maxwell has access to the document. We do not.
Right here.
He does add here that of course it depends on what the victim said in those interviews. However, if the victim exonerated him, the public needs to know that as well. And you'd think he'd see common ground there. That's exactly right. I mean, let's just say this victim got in this interview and said, actually, I got it wrong about Donald Trump or something along those lines. Let's just say she exonerated him. The American people deserve to know that. And by the way, I think if that's what was said in the interviews, those interviews would have been released from the get-go.
No, what the American people also need to know is that Ghislaine Maxwell possibly is in Canada. Yeah, with Epstein's attorney, Dershowitz, in front of a pizza parlor and Pokemon. Yeah.
You know what I mean? This woman who was a girl at the time, saying actually Donald Trump did nothing wrong. I believe that Donald Trump would be parading that around as evidence of an exoneration in these files, but he's not doing that. And he's not releasing these interviews, which can only make you, me, and everybody at home wonder about what these interviews say, given that she already accused him of assault, and we have record of that accusation. It just gets worse by the day. Maxwell has held this leverage over Donald Trump since her team received the files in batches from DOJ prosecutors as a standard part of her trial prep in 2021. So knowing that Maxwell has all of this potential blackmail, it can only make us wonder. Go back to the summer of 2025. Maxwell gets interviewed by Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's number 2 at the Department of Justice, and of course, his own former personal defense attorney who defended him during his New York City criminal trial. He interviews her. The interviews are basically nothing. She doesn't really answer many questions, but something she does say in the interview is that she never saw Donald Trump do anything wrong. Never saw him in any inappropriate setting. And then around a week later, Ghislaine Maxwell gets moved to a women's prison camp in Texas where she can do yoga.
Just so you know, she called last week, sent a threat when Bondi says she hopes she dies in prison. And now, all of a sudden, when she sent that message, she sent that kite, to Trump. Now she's spotted with Dershowitz in Canada. Yeah, right here. This is it right here. The picture right here. Yeah, she's on the streets. So she sent a message to Trump like, hold up, handle your business. Handle your part of the deal. And then now she's on the street. She's spotted. How that happened? Yeah.
can work a job. She can go outside
And then
anytime she
all of
wants.
a sudden, I've been exonerated. I've been totally exonerated. Yeah. Okay.
Lay in the grass. This is much different than the prison she was held in Tallahassee, which was a high-level security prison. She didn't get those same perks.
She's not
and
in
this
prison
lower-level
no more.
security camp in Texas is normally for non-violent offenders, so people who commit financial crimes, for example, not people who, do bad things to children. It was completely out of the blue. Experts have no idea why it happened. And now, fast forward, we have Ghislaine Maxwell appealing for clemency.
And they're not going to be talking
Donald
about
Trump,
it until Monday or Tuesday.
And if he grants her clemency, she can speak openly and honestly about what she saw with Epstein, and she could clear Donald Trump's name.
And they're
I think you see what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And he one of them in there. Yeah, that's Andy Big. He in there too.
It's almost like Ghislaine Maxwell has this dirt on Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
She hasn't revealed it because she wants a pardon from Donald Trump. She gets perks by getting moved to a low-level security prison. Donald Trump says he doesn't know about her
moved her
being
ass
moved.
on up
It's
out of
almost
there,
like they have
child.
this gentleman's agreement. And it almost feels like Donald Trump may grant her clemency or pardon her on his last day in office, and is keeping her comfortable until
He
then.
gonna
So she
announce
doesn't reveal this
it next
alleged
week
blackmail.
or something,
And this,
and to piss
of course,
us
this
off.
reporting we now have only fuels
He's going
this.
to announce it next week or the week after to piss us off because he is not going to get his way. And if what old boy said that they had a raid at this weekend, which, I don't know if somebody that's in these files or Wexner, if somebody have not gave up something, but I think there was a raid at some of his properties.
Theory that she does have this blackmail that we, the American people, haven't seen. The DOJ hasn't released. They've redacted it. We have no idea what it says, but she knows what it says.
Mm-hmm.
And this is coming from an accuser that the FBI deemed to be credible. I don't know. You got to let me know in the comments what you think about this. I don't think anything good is taking place. I think there might be a deal that was struck between Donald Trump and Ghislaine Maxwell.
That's why she's
and this
out.
might have something to do with it. Again, we don't know that for sure.
And you don't even know she's out yet. That's the funny part, baby boy. You don't know that she's already out. You did this yesterday, and yesterday I cut it short because I had saw that she had been a sighting. So that's the reason why I came back over here today to see what I missed last night from you, because yeah, when you posted this yesterday, so I don't even think that you know that she is in Canada.
This is just me theorizing and putting pieces together. Maybe they don't match. Maybe the puzzle is not a match. I don't know. You can let me know what you think. But
what you was talking about yesterday is really, really good, and it does connect. And it'll be next week or the week after something happens major, piss him off, and then he's gonna announce that he gave her clemency, and that people are gonna think it just happened and she already gone. She already gone. She is already gone.
Forensic experts. The clock struck just after 6 this morning when something extraordinary happened. Federal law enforcement descended on not one, not two, but 3 separate locations tied to a single individual. And if you think this is just another headline that will fade by tomorrow, you need to understand something fundamental about how federal investigations actually work. When I say federal agents showed up, I'm not describing a polite knock on the door with a request for cooperation. This was a coordinated operation involving multiple teams, forensic experts, and legal specialists, from divisions that only get involved when national security is on the line. After spending 3 decades inside the federal prosecution system, handling everything from organized crime syndicates to public corruption scandals, I can tell you this with complete confidence. These operations don't happen because someone filed a complaint. They happen because investigators have built a case strong enough to convince a federal magistrate that evidence of criminal activity exists behind those doors. So what I'm about to do is break down exactly what went down at each of these locations, examine the legal foundation that made these searches possible, and explain why what agents discovered isn't merely a bureaucratic headache. It represents potential violations of statutes designed to protect our most sensitive national defense secrets, violations that could result in decades behind bars. Here's the critical difference between this
And maybe
development
that's
and
why
every other
he,
twist in this
maybe
ongoing
that's
saga.
why he was
Federal
saying, it was
magistrates
just
don't
crazy that he kept saying Barack Obama gave up classified information. It was classified. It was classified. And it was so odd that he kept saying that. So what he's saying right here, because you know it's out, he'll throw it out there, but what he's putting on others is typically what's going on with him. Because that didn't make sense. It's classified information. No, how's that classified information? He ain't the president one, and he said he didn't see nothing at that 51 place. So it may be what's going on here with classified information.
Those doors. So what I'm about to do is break down exactly what went down at each of these locations, examine the legal foundation that made these searches possible, and explain why what agents discovered isn't merely a bureaucratic headache. It represents potential violations of statutes designed to protect our most sensitive national defense secrets, violations that could result in decades behind bars. Here's the critical difference between this development and every other twist in this ongoing saga. Federal magistrates don't authorize search operations based on hunches. The legal documents supporting these warrants had to satisfy a specific threshold, demonstrating through concrete evidence that there's a legitimate basis to believe classified material relating to national defense is being kept in violation of federal statutes. Meeting that threshold requires documented facts, testimony from reliable sources, and evidence suggesting deliberate efforts to conceal materials from authorities. I'll be tracking this case as it moves through the criminal justice system, focusing exclusively on evidence and court filings, not partisan narratives. If you want an analysis grounded in actual documents rather than social media speculation, stay with me. I'm going to show you precisely what investigators uncovered and why those with knowledge of national security protocols are calling this a crisis situation. Let me take you through what happened at each location, because understanding the specifics is crucial. The first site targeted by investigators was a private estate in Palm Beach. The operation commenced at 6:23 in the morning, Eastern Time. 17 federal agents, 3 specialists in forensic document analysis, and 2 prosecutors from a Justice Department division that exclusively handles national security matters arrived with judicial authorization. The involvement of that particular division should tell you everything about the gravity of the situation. They don't waste resources on administrative disagreements about record keeping. Their mandate covers espionage, classified intelligence, and threats to the country's security infrastructure. The authorization granted to agents was comprehensive. They could examine any space on the property where documents might be concealed. Bedrooms, private offices, storage areas, security vaults, even automobiles parked on the grounds. The operation continued for 9 full hours. When agents departed at 3:47 that afternoon, they removed 33 containers of material, 18 folders bearing markings indicating top secret classification, and 3 electronic storage devices containing digital files. Let me emphasize what that means. 18 folders marked with the highest classification tier, not the lower levels of confidential or secret, but top secret. That designation is reserved for information that, if exposed, could cause catastrophically severe damage to national security. We're talking about intelligence that, in the wrong hands, could compromise ongoing operations, expose intelligence gathering methods, or endanger lives. The second location was a storage facility in Northern Virginia that wasn't previously known to the public. The legal documents unsealed this morning reveal that investigators learned of this site through someone cooperating with authorities. An individual with direct knowledge informed federal agents that materials had been deliberately relocated to this facility to keep them away from investigators. The search at this second site began at 7:15 in the morning. Agents recovered 12 additional containers with classified contents. Several of these materials bore markings indicating site designation, sensitive compartmented information. This represents intelligence so restricted that it can only be accessed within specially constructed secure facilities. It cannot be brought to someone's residence. It cannot be stored in a standard office environment. And it absolutely cannot sit in a commercial storage unit accessible to regular employees and security personnel. The third site was a private office space in New York. Agents arrived at 8 in the morning and located 7 containers holding classified documents connected to foreign intelligence collection operations. These materials included details about human intelligence assets, the actual identities of individuals providing information to U.S. intelligence services overseas. When this category of information is compromised, it's not merely a legal violation.
I wonder
It
did
creates
Wexner
life-threatening
give up some.
situations for people in the field. Now, you might be wondering whether these materials had been declassified. Federal investigators have confirmed they were not. There's no paperwork trail, no executive memorandum. The declassification process requires documentation and proper channels. But even if we imagine these materials had been declassified through proper procedures, records from a presidential administration belong to the National Archives by law. Removing them constitutes theft of government property. Federal law, specifically the Espionage Act, criminalizes the willful retention of national defense information. The consequences are substantial. So let me ask you this.
So whoever was in my comment section, well, not my comment section, but that sent me a message on the upload yesterday in the comments saying espionage with a question mark. Yes, espionage. Absolutely. He's the enemy of the state, of the United States, not the state of Israel, where he is working as a spy for. You want me to say it again? Where he's an enemy of the United States, and he is a spy for the state of Israel. And he's stealing and funneling money from the U.S. to the state of Israel. Yes, when I said espionage yesterday in my title, that's what I meant. Let's go.
The declassification process requires documentation and proper channels. But even if we imagine these materials had been declassified through proper procedures, records from a presidential administration belong to the National Archives by law. Removing them constitutes theft of government property. Federal law, specifically the Espionage Act, criminalizes the willful retention of national defense information. The consequences are substantial. So let me ask you this. When federal agents discover top secret materials at 3 separate locations after months of formal requests to return them, does that appear to be an inadvertent mistake, or does it look like deliberate retention? Drop your analysis in the comments section. I want to see how you're reading this situation. Let me walk you through the timeline of events, because the sequence matters enormously. January of last year, the National Archives formally requested the return of classified materials. February, 15 containers were returned, but they contained materials with classification markings, triggering an FBI investigation. March, the FBI formally requested confirmation that all materials had been returned. April, a witness came forward reporting that documents were still being retained. May, a grand jury issued a subpoena demanding any remaining situation. Let me walk you through the timeline of events, because the sequence matters enormously. January of last year.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
the National Archives formally requested the return of classified materials. February, 15 containers were returned, but they contained materials with classification markings, triggering an FBI investigation. March, the FBI formally requested confirmation that all materials had been returned. April, a witness came forward reporting that documents were still being retained. May, a grand jury issued a subpoena demanding any remaining materials. June, 4 additional containers were returned along with a sworn certification stating no further materials remained. But here's where it gets interesting. The FBI to see how you're reading this situation. Let me walk you through the timeline of events, because the sequence matters enormously. January of last year, the National Archives formally requested the return of classified materials. February, 15 containers were returned, but they contained materials with classification markings, triggering an FBI investigation. March, the FBI formally requested confirmation that all materials had been returned. April, a witness came forward reporting that documents were still being retained. May, a grand jury issued a subpoena demanding any remaining materials. June, 4 additional containers were returned along with a sworn certification stating no further materials remained. But here's where it gets interesting. The FBI had evidence that this certification was false. They had witness statements. They had security camera footage showing containers being moved between locations. They had electronic communications discussing the concealment of documents. Federal prosecutors presented all of this to a federal magistrate who determined that probable cause existed for search warrants. That's why agents showed up at dawn. Now let me explain what the law actually says about retaining classified materials, because understanding the potential charges is essential. The primary statute in question is Title 18, United States Code, Section 793, the Espionage Act. It criminalizes the willful retention of documents containing national defense information. To secure a conviction, prosecutors need to establish 3 core elements. First element, the documents contain national defense information. That's straightforward here. The materials bore top secret and PSI markings. They contained intelligence about foreign military capabilities, information about human sources providing intelligence, and specifics about U.S. defense programs. That's textbook national defense information. Second element.
Now, go ahead.
The accused had unauthorized possession. Once someone leaves the presidency, they have 0 authorization to possess classified documents. These records are government property. They should have been transferred to the National Archives immediately. Retaining them constitutes unauthorized possession. Third element, the accused willfully retained the documents. Willfully means intentionally, and with awareness that the conduct was improper. This is where the timeline becomes devastating. Multiple formal requests were made to return materials. A grand jury issued a subpoena. Legal counsel provided a sworn certification that everything had been returned. Then federal agents discovered 37 additional containers at 3 different locations. That's not accidental possession. That's willful retention. But there's another layer that makes this more serious. There's evidence suggesting obstruction. When someone does...
Now, we know that this is the same thing that they hit Andrew with, right? The former Prince Andrew. They hit him with giving information to foreign countries. Espionage. Yeah. He was over the trade for UK. Same thing.
Doesn't just keep classified materials, but actively takes steps to conceal them from investigators. That's a separate federal crime. Obstruction of justice. Electronic communications between staff members about relocating containers. The false sworn certification provided to federal agents. The transfer of materials to the storage facility after the grand jury subpoena was issued. All of that constitutes evidence of obstruction. The penalties for these violations are severe. Each count of willfully retaining national defense information carries up to 10 years in federal prison. If prosecutors file 1 count for each classified document, and they found documents at 3 separate locations, we could be looking at dozens of individual counts. Obstruction of justice carries up to 20 years. Making false statements to federal investigators carries up to 5 years. When you calculate the potential cumulative exposure here, we're not talking about months. We're talking about decades in federal prison. Now, let me address the defenses you're going to hear from various sources. First, they'll claim the operation was politically motivated, but federal search warrants require approval from the Attorney General, an agreement from a federal magistrate. Multiple levels of oversight examine the evidence before authorization was granted. Second, they'll assert that materials were declassified. No evidence of that exists. No documentation, no formal orders. And even if materials had been properly declassified, presidential records still belong to the National Archives by statute. Third, they'll characterize this as merely a dispute over records management. But the evidence of obstruction transforms this into criminal conduct. Moving containers between locations, providing false sworn certifications to federal agents. That's not a bureaucratic disagreement. That's criminal obstruction. Fourth, they'll point to other officials who have mishandled classified materials. But the law distinguishes between negligent mishandling and willful retention, combined with obstruction. The evidence here suggests the latter. Let me outline what happens next in this process, because the timeline is important. Right now, the FBI is conducting detailed analysis of everything seized during the searches. That includes forensic examination of documents, cataloging all materials recovered, and conducting interviews with witnesses who can authenticate what was found. Within approximately 30 days, federal prosecutors will present this evidence to a grand jury. The grand jury will hear testimony from FBI agents who conducted the searches, archival specialists, who can explain which materials are classified and why, and potentially witnesses who observed the handling of these documents. If the grand jury returns an indictment, that's when this formally becomes a criminal prosecution. The accused would be arraigned, appearing in court to hear the charges and enter a plea. A trial date would be scheduled and the case would proceed through the standard criminal process. Based on the evidence that's been made public so far, I would anticipate an indictment within approximately 60 days. The evidence appears overwhelming. The obstruction appears clear, and the national security implications are too significant to ignore. But here's what I want you to understand about why this case matters beyond any single individual. Our classification system exists to protect information that could harm national security if exposed. When we designate documents as top secret, we're making a determination that unauthorized disclosure could cause exceptionally grave damage. That's not bureaucratic language crafted by lawyers. That's a genuine assessment of risk. Human intelligence sources could be identified and killed. Military operations could be compromised before they're completed. Diplomatic relationships carefully built over years could be irreparably damaged. When someone removes those documents and refuses to return them despite repeated formal requests, they're putting all of that at risk. The identity of who took them is irrelevant. The position they previously held doesn't matter. These laws exist to protect the country, not to protect individuals who believe they're exempt from accountability. Every service member who has ever been granted access to classified information understands the rules. Mishandling classified documents can destroy your career and result in imprisonment. There are service members incarcerated in military prisons right now for violations far less serious than what we're seeing in this case. If the system treats a junior enlisted service member more harshly than a former president for identical conduct, then the system has failed. That's not a political statement. That's basic fairness under law. The rule of law means the law applies equally to everyone. No exceptions for power. No exceptions for position. No exceptions for wealth or influence. The evidence will determine what happens next. The grand jury will decide whether charges are warranted. And if charges are filed, a jury of ordinary citizens will determine guilt or innocence. That's how the system is designed to function. I'll be covering every significant development in this case. I'll be monitoring the grand jury process. And when charges are filed, if they're filed, I'll be analyzing the indictment provision by provision, count by count. Evidence, not spin. Facts, not speculation. Court documents, not partisan narratives. If you want to follow what actually happens based on legal filings and court records rather than so...
Okay, y'all, I'm finna go ahead and hang it up. They're saying that there's a big measles outbreak. So that means that they don't probably put it in the air. Who knows? But y'all be careful, be safe. Oh, Lord. Make sure y'all get y'all all of a Ravenol. What else? Sea moss. Y'all need to stock up on y'all natural herbs. We already know Trump is finna trip. He finna get exposed big time. Ghislaine is out. And whoever's in prison acting They done switched her out. That's why she was walking backwards and stuff. When they released that video footage, it was probably tainted and faked in. Who knows everything that they doing, but they spraying stuff out of the air. So stay woke. Peace.